Hi, I'm Donna Wilder.
And I'm Janie Donaldson. Welcome to Quilt Central, where we celebrate quilting and everyday living.
Today, Janie and I are going to Pattis' 1880 settlement for a ladies' luncheon.
We're glad you joined us, so stay tuned.
Funding for Quilt Central has been provided by the American Quilter Society, dedicated to promoting today's quilter. Quilting Machines International, providing quilting machines and supplies for the world. Sulky of America, taking creativity to new heights with decorated threads, stabilizers, and books. Displayaway, patented quilt and fabric art hanger. The Displayaway is to fabric art what the picture frame is to paintings. Gamble Quilting Machine Company. With a quick hands-on test, you will discover why quilters choose Gamble. Fairfield, maker of polyfill fiber fill, pillow, batting, and foam products. Pattis' 1880 Settlement, where friends bring friends. Free Spirit Fabrics, quilting fabrics with style. Quilt Central, celebrating quilting in everyday living with your hosts Jane Donaldson and Donna Wilder.
Today we're going to decorate the master bedroom. I would like you to take a look at that room just before we did anything to it. Now I want you to see all the things that we've added to that room. We added a touch of color at the dust ruffle. We added 2 pillow shams with flanges on them and quilted those. We also added another log cabin quilt on the love seat, made of flannel just to be cozy. We also tore a strip of fabric and wrapped it around the lamp base for color and a little bit on the lamp shade. We added quilted wall hangings using the same color. Then we wanted to be sure that the bedspread on the master bed had that spark of color to carry it all the way through. And when we did the master bedroom bedspread, we used a log cabin block. The very center of it is the jewel or the chimney of that block, and we used that same fabric to spark the color. We are so happy that you can see how we use that fabric in the room. Didn't it turn out beautiful? I would like to show you a little bit about our choices for that room. We wanted that room to be able to be really decorated at Christmas time because I love Christmas and I love to have big Christmases. So we decided to use a burgundy and a blend of greens. But I didn't want to get too red because I wanted to live with that through the rest of the year, and a master bedroom should have some peace and quiet to it. So we chose a fabric that had kind of a rusty red look, and also the greens, which would be wonderful at Christmas time. Now the log cabin block is a wonderful block because we just add the spark of color in the middle. And that's the block that I want to show you today, how we constructed that. I do want to make a little reference to the quilt behind me because that is also a very scrappy look like these log cabin blocks are. And I like to work with scrappy when we put that together, and sometimes I work with as many as 20 different prints from my stash at a time, maybe 10 lights and 10 darks. This particular quilt that was behind me has been cut from one fabric. And this fabric had a lot of color to it. So when I cut the strips, I just mixed them up in a bag and I just closed my eyes and picked a color out and went to it. And the whole quilt blends just beautifully. So that's something else you can do too if you don't have a large stash to choose from. But I'll show you a little bit about how we put this log cabin block together. This piece up here is how we started. We have the log cabin block. Actually, the center block is to represent the chimney, and they're often put together with red to represent fire, or yellow for the tips of the flames, or black to represent the soot. It's kind of the jewel of the quilt. It's the spark that you want to add, so it's a very important color when you select. The rest of the pieces around the block are the logs to the cabin, and each block just has one light side and one dark side. And you can put those blocks together in many different arrangements. You could turn them so they run diagonal. You can turn them so you have a large star. You can turn them so you have lots of little stars. But we put ours together in a diamond pattern, one large diamond pattern to have a center motif on the bed. So this would be the center of our quilt, and that's called a barn raising design. So I want to show you a little bit about how to sew a log cabin together, because the beauty of this block is that you really don't have to cut much other than the strips. The center block is important to get that sized right. And we started with a 2-inch block. That's the one that's important to get just right. The rest of the pieces are scraps of 1.5-inch strips. And we just mix them up, both the light and the dark, and I just choose them at random to sew the block. So when I sew one, I don't even really measure other than when my original cutting. I take the center block, and I'm not much for pinning. I just want to get done. So I lay this on here, and I put it underneath the foot. And oh, this machine, it has so many stitches on it, but we really only need to select the straight stitch this time. And I sew, as all quilters do, in 1/4-inch increments. Seam allowance is 1/4 inch. Unlike when you sew garments, they're usually 5/8. Now this, I don't even have to measure it. And you can cut with a rotary cutter or you can cut with a regular scissors, but I can see right where I need to cut because of the size of the first block. So I trim that off. And you can either press it with an iron or you can just press it open. And I'm just going to finger press it because I probably have enough heat in my hands just to hold that for a second, and it'll stay open and flat enough so I can do that. Now that's the first log. Now the second log I put on there is a dark log, and I just go down the other side. So I can just pick anything I want, and I'll sew one dark one here so you'll be able to get a start to see how it goes. Now some quilters, they press their seams all to one side. That's the most updated way, but I'm still an old-fashioned sewer. I press my seams open so that my quilt is a little flatter. I just love this machine. It's so nice and quiet. Okay, I can also see on this one where I need to cut. So now I have begun to add the logs. And my block will begin to grow. And I'll show you, I have some here so you can see as I continue to add the logs what I will end up with. I grew to there. I kept adding around, a little bigger. And you can bring your log cabin block out to any size you want to use. Let's see where we can get this one. Turn it this way. And here's a larger one. And now we're getting up to size. There is the finished block. And you can see when I fit it in, I can get this next row going right around in a barn raising design. So I wanted to show you how easy and fast that can be. I'm sure you girls have plenty of scraps in your stashes and you can work a log cabin out. And you need to pay special attention to that center color to bring the spark or to bring a fabric into your room. And I wanted you to be sure to take note of that important fact. And didn't the master bedroom turn out to be just fantastically decorated?
One of the questions that quilters ask me a lot about is how do I display my quilts? And my guest today has a very exciting quilt display to share with us. Joining me is Hal Zeller from the Zeller Wood Originals, and they designed Displayaway. Welcome, Hal.
Delighted, Donna, to be here. Thank you for having me.
Well, I'm glad you're here, and you know, this is a system that I have never seen before, and it is so exciting. And I want you to show us how easily that quilt goes into this quilt display.
Okay, there's your quilt. You do not have to display, pierce, alter, or damage in any way.
It just slides up like that.
And the heavier the piece is, the tighter it will grip.
Oh, that's wonderful. Now, what actually holds that quilt into that piece?
It actually works in harmony with gravity, so it's the weight of the piece that dictates how much pressure is applied to it.
Okay.
The harder or heavier it is, the tighter it will grip. And it's great for the other end of the spectrum for your light wall hangings. It's not applying excessive clamping pressure to your fibers.
Well, now, these little, what are they called that you have?
These are the rollers that you're able to put in, and you mount your quilt once it's up on the wall. You don't have to do it on the table.
Which is nice, isn't it, when you don't have to do that?
Yes. They're solid brass, so they're impervious to pollution.
Okay.
Or if you live near the ocean, they're unaffected, and they're incapable of transferring a mark to your fibers.
So nothing will happen to the fabric?
Nothing's going to happen to the fabric. The wood is sealed with multiple layers of polyurethane, inside and out.
And that's like a channel that goes through here?
Yes, that runs the length of your piece.
Okay, now we have 4 in this one.
This one would actually come with 5. I just had the 4 in there.
Okay.
Depending on the length, you get more of those.
And it doesn't matter how far apart you have to put them?
No, you can randomly space them. And it's also nice when I want to hang a smaller quilt. It doesn't have to go to the full length. I can move these in so they're concealed behind the ends of whatever length you are displaying.
Oh, that's great. Now, is it up against the wall, or does it?
No, ma'am. As the quilt is displayed, you do have air circulating space behind it, which is real important. Gives you a nice dust hood across the top of your piece, so it has protects the top border from accumulation of dust. To release the piece, I'm just pushing up on the handles.
And that takes it out?
Yes.
Oh, that's great. Now, if I were going to put one of these up, what would I have to do to get it perfect on the wall? And, you know, this is the thing that I have a hard time hanging pictures now, remember, so how would I do this and make it simple?
We make it real simple for you. There's a couple of flush mount brackets that fit on the back of the unit.
All right.
Provided are the drywall anchor, so you simply measure these depending on the length of it.
Okay.
Mount the brackets to the wall. The center of the Displayaway is marked, so once your brackets are.
And now how are you seeing that center?
There is a mark on the back of the unit.
Oh, okay, and down on the bottom area there?
Yes, in the back, so it's not seen while your quilt is displayed.
Oh, that's great. Now, do they come in different lengths?
Any
is that
length.
what you do?
Yes, any length.
And I know the ones behind us here really look nice, and you have done used a long frame with 2 quilts hung on it.
Yes.
And the other thing that I think is so exciting is that you have mounts that have lights in them as well.
Yes, we have a lighted model that we call the Museum Master.
Now, when you use a quilt display like that with the lights, does that damage the quilts at all?
Halogen lights are used.
Okay.
It's low in UV damage. The indirect sunlight is much more damaging.
So this would be, you know, the sunlight would be worse than the lighting you're getting from this.
Yes, ma'am.
And how does it penetrate all the way down? I mean, when that's lighted like that, the whole quilt looks like it's sparkling, and the relief is fabulous.
Yes. Creates nice highlights with your stitching and your piece. And it dries real deep.
Now, how do you protect these? I mean, do you have to put any finish on them, or are they?
Well, they are sealed with multiple layers of polyurethane inside and out. Yes.
And the nicest thing, I think, is the fact that it's not damaging to the piece. And again, this is brass?
Yes, it's solid brass.
And so brass doesn't tarnish or
impervious to pollution and salt and atmosphere.
That's great. Well, let's put that quilt back up there again, because I think this is so interesting to see how you just snap it up, and it's so quick and easy to do.
And the museums love it, and for another reason, it is very easy to rotate your pieces. You do not have to. You can hang it without.
So you don't need a sleeve.
You don't have to sleeve it. If you do have a sleeve on your piece, it'll still hold your piece. You can hang it from any of your edges.
Great. Well, this is exciting, and I want to thank you for sharing that with our viewers, because I know they're going to love having something that is really good for the quilt as well. Thank you.
Thank you.
Today we're here at Patti's 1880 settlement, having a lovely ladies' luncheon.
I always try to make at least one trip out during the quilt show, and I know the quilters make a special trip out here each time they're in Paducah.
Yes, not only do they have wonderful food, but they decorate with quilts, flowers, and stained glass.
I love old quilts, so I visit all of the antique shops and check out the stores to see what they have as well.
Good afternoon, ladies.
Hi,
Jane,
Mike.
pleasure
How are
seeing
you?
again. Hi, I'm Mike Teller, Pattis'
Hi, Mike.
son.
I'm Donna Wilder.
Donna, pleasure to have you here visiting Pattis. And you're enjoying your dinners or your lunches?
Oh,
Very good. And this
wonderful.
pork chop is really something.
Oh, good. That's our house specialty. You can't go wrong with our pork chop. Sell millions of them. Nice to see you here. Come back and join us anytime.
Well,
Thank
thanks,
you.
Mike.
Thank you.
As with all establishments, there is a true homegrown family history at its core. Seems one thing just leads to another, and so it is with Patti's 1880 settlement.
Just a short distance from Paducah is Grand Rivers, Kentucky, a charming little village tucked away among the lush forests and sparkling waters of the famed land between the lakes.
It's the kind of place that beckons to those who want to relax, reminisce about days gone by, or recapture their spirit, if only for a short time. Patti's 1880 settlement is practically a village in itself. It features renowned restaurants, delightful boutiques, lovely gardens, and an intimate wedding chapel, along with a variety of family attractions, including its famous animal park, miniature golf course, arcade, and playground.
Patti's is just right for a day of family fun or a romantic evening.
Critics have praised Patti's settlement in newspapers and magazines throughout America, and Southern Living magazine selected it as first winner of the People's Choice Award for the Southern United States.
Now the 1880 settlement attracts guests from here in Kentucky, throughout the Midwest, and across the country.
The young and the young at heart will enjoy the animal park, and everyone loves the beautiful gardens, streams, and fountains. A visit to Patti's 1880 settlement promises to be a truly memorable experience. It's like coming home for dinner. And this is what they call the mile-high meringue pie.
Here I am, and I've moved to the longarm quilting machine. I'd like to talk to you today a little bit about quilting log cabins and what you do on log cabins. Usually a log cabin has a light side to the block and a dark side, and according to how you put those together is the arrangement you get. But when you put the quilt layers together and you're ready to put your pattern on, the quilting all comes down to a certain method. The light areas are generally, they have a pattern on it that you can see and says some sort of theme or says something about the room. And then the dark area is just outlined or meandered down, and we don't play up the dark areas too much because even if you tried, you can't see the quilting pattern on there. So today, and this is from the master bedroom bedspread, we are going to show you how we quilted that and give you a couple of different options and ideas for maybe a little variable on it. I wanted to talk to you about meandering. We see so much meandering today in the quilt world, and it shows where the quilts are judged. If the meandering lends itself to that particular quilt and the pattern it is, then that will upgrade the quilt according to the judge. But if you just put it on there because you didn't know what else to do, then they kind of downgrade the quilts. So also there is a rhyme and a reason to how meandering is done. There's really three different kinds. There's what they call paper doll. It actually looks like a paper doll. It has an arm and a head and an arm and a head and an arm. You could actually put a little smiley face on. Sometimes people call that Casper the Ghost. But they call that paper doll quilting, and you can twist and turn that meandering line any way you like. Then they have what they call dog boning, and you know a dog bone has two bumps on the ends like that. So dog boning usually has two bumps on it. It's like bump, bump, down. Now this I'm just doing in a straight line. And when the same pattern is up that it is down, they call that a tessellating pattern. But where you want to be with your meandering is you want to combine the things that have triple and double bumps on them so that you get what they call puzzle piece. And you want to twist and turn that line so people can't figure out where you went. So you would actually be doing a combination of things until you got a more lacy look. If they were doing that in frosting on a cake, they call that cornelian lace, and that is what you are trying to achieve when you do your meandering patterns. So on this master bedroom patchwork, we actually did the meandering in the dark. It holds it down, it makes it a very secure quilt, and no matter what we put in the dark areas, it wouldn't show too much anyway. So we did spend quite a bit of time meandering that, because I know that bedspread will probably be jumped on by my little boys and laundered a lot, and I wanted it to be a real sturdy one. Another thing that you can do in the log cabin is you can run a panto-graph. Now, longarm quilters buy panto-graph in long 12.5-foot rolls, and this is just a little section out of a long roll. And they always wonder, well, how can you run that diagonal? Because the layout of this particular quilt is barn raising, which is a diamond, and then the bars of color build around that. So how do you run that diagonal? Because usually a panto-graph goes on the back of the machine, and it's under a big pattern protector piece of plastic, and you can't move it on any angle at all. But you can actually bring that up to the front of the machine or the nose of the machine. You can turn that diagonal or any which way you want, and you can actually pin that in a diagonal right onto your quilt. And you can run your laser light, which follows the pattern. My laser's over here, but I'll show it to you a little better later here. You can run that diagonal right down the quilt, and it doesn't have to be on the horizontal at the back of the machine. So that's another way. If you want to get a theme into a room, I'm going to show you a couple of things here. These are really neat. These are called Discover Designs, and they're a layout of a blank. Now this, you can draw anything in there you want. You could take a picture and something out of your wallpaper and place it in there. You could take a little rose out of the fabric that you're using and draw it in there. The red dotted areas are where you draw your theme, and the other lines, are the black ones, are the connecting areas. These are really a neat way to be able to draw a theme pattern or something into your quilts that is a nice, makes it a nice memory piece for you. And those are Discover Designs. There's like 21 different ways or different patterns that have blanks. I'm going to show you this. I'm going to quilt this right into this block here, and I'm going to try to do just a little meandering for you. I think I'm pretty close to having my laser light set up here for you. I position my needle in the middle of the block, and I position my laser light in the middle of the block, and that's how I get this centered. And I actually check the top and bottom corners in certain areas to see about where I'm going to end up in case my fabric is turned just a little bit. And I'll just quilt a little piece of that. I guess I'll start over here. I probably won't have time to do the whole block, but you'll be able to see a little bit about how I set that pattern up. Now, if you can't stay exactly on the line, it's okay. You just need to keep it smooth. Well, I'm getting pretty close there, and I want to show you a little bit about the meandering. I'm not sure you'll be able to see too well on the dark with dark thread, but we'll give it a try. We'll hope we can see a little of it. When I start my meandering, I start in a teardrop shape, and I loop back around on top of my own stitching. I do that on purpose to anchor the end and so that you can't find it quite so easy in the meandering. Now we're trying to do a puzzle piece look. You get up in those corners, and when you get done, with your quilting. You loop back around on top of some of your own stitching because you want to end that stitching so that they can't find the end. So you actually stitch back across on top of some of your own. So there you go. That gives you a little idea of how we got the panto-graph into the light areas. It gives you a little idea how we got the meandering into the dark areas and what you can do with a log cabin. And we really think the log cabin is a cozy, traditional pattern, one that's just perfect for the master bedroom.
Visit the Quilt Central website at www.quiltcentraltv.com for more information on this program.
What did you think of those wonderful quilt racks, Donna?
Well, I was amazed. They not only showcase the quilts, but they protect the quilts while they're hanging. And talk about quilts, we're going to be visiting the American Quilter Society Quilt Show and Contest and see many, many prize-winning quilts.
So join us next time on Quilt Central.
Funding for Quilt Central has been provided by the American Quilter Society, dedicated to promoting today's quilter. Quilting Machines International, providing quilting machines and supplies for the world. Sulky of America, taking creativity to new heights with decorated threads, stabilizers, and books. Displayaway, patented quilt and fabric art hanger. The Displayaway is to fabric art what the picture frame is to paintings. Gamble Quilting Machine Company. With a quick hands-on test, you will discover why quilters choose Gamble. Fairfield, maker of polyfill fiber fill, pillow, batting, and foam products. Pattis 1880 Settlement, where friends bring friends. Free Spirit Fabrics, quilting fabrics with style.